Why is it so hard to have the kind of compassion and empathy and understanding we so often find so easy to direct towards anyone else, towards ourselves, especially with trauma histories, with ADHD, with AuDHD, with autism? Why? This episode, 82 of the Feel Better Everyday podcast, is inspired by the phenomenal film I Swear, based on John Davidson's memoir about living with Tourette's and becoming an advocate. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, you're listening to the Feel Better Everyday podcast. I'm your host and producer, Eve Menezes Cunningham. I'm a trauma therapist, trauma survivor, ADHDer. Now I've heard AuDHD, learning more about the autism that the ADHD medication. It's a learning curve. It's a lot, and it's also helpful. The more we understand ourselves, the better. And I'm a self-care coach, senior accredited supervisor, author, columnist. Um, you can access more information about the Soul to Soul Circle, the book, full show notes and transcript and links at selfcarecoaching.net, and also the Feel Better Everyday podcast.com. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts. I release new episodes every Tuesday, helping people with trauma, ADHD, and AuDHD take better care of yourself, create a life you don't need to retreat from, and help create a world in which everyone feels safe, welcome, and loved, able to thrive. And again, back to this amazing film with it's just so phenomenal. I recognised an enormous. So sorry, I've just skipped ahead an enormous amount. I swear, I'm recording it. It's out in cinemas at the moment in Ireland. It might be out on one of the streaming services or still in the cinema by the time you see this in a few weeks. His memoir is available, John Davidson. I sobbed. I howled with laughter. I was shouting at the TV, not the TV, the big screen. Um, it was amazing. I had to leave the cinema at one point, and I wanted to leave at other points with the brutality of what he was having to deal with. And the film shows this young, confident football enthusiast lad starting high school and then developing Tourette's. So you see him go from confident and like asking a girl out on his first day of school, being like told that a scout is going to watch the football game, and then he begins to develop the tics and the outbursts. And I recognized a lot of the impulsivity and self-loathing, and also the enormous potential for healing through compassion. But seeing it on the big screen, so visible, so desperate to just give him an enormous hug and move him away from all that pain, that kind of wishing that everyone could see this film and have more compassion for themselves and the differences they struggle with, whether to do with Tourette's or any kind of physical or mental condition or emotional or any kind of difference. Like you think about the way people are othering immigrants, refugees, people from other backgrounds, like all sorts of like gender. It's incredible how this young man was able to turn so much pain into advocacy for so many people who needed that support and that understanding. And through doing that, he found more for himself. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I wasn't the only one sobbing in the cinema, and I can't remember the last time a film ended and everyone just sat there. One of the people I've been telling, watch this film, said, now when you do the podcast, don't give the ending away, don't give too much away. So I'm going to try and avoid spoilers. but it's based on his true story. We know he survives. We know he wrote a memoir. We know he told the Queen to fuck off when he got to meet the Queen. They're not spoilers, they're all from the very beginning. Using the Feel, Love, Heal framework to move through some of the lessons from, I Swear, this gorgeous, gorgeous film. The feel element of the framework I developed, it's very much about that active self-care when you have the bandwidth to do the things to help yourself regulate, to help yourself feel better. And he got to the stage where he was able to research Tourette's as someone with the lived condition. But it took a long time for him to get there because, unfortunately, when the symptoms appeared, his parents were not in a place where they could support him. And instead, they contributed to the shame and the pain and the horror of his young life, which he tried to end at a very early age. Luckily, he survived. And also, very luckily, when he was a bit older, he meets the friend's mother, an old school friend's mother, who they all think is dying, and she has 6 months to live. He kind of has an outburst saying something like, "Ha ha, you're gonna die," something deeply inappropriate. Like that, it was laugh out loud. It was so funny in parts and so horrendous and so relatable in so many ways because all of us have shame, have fear, have embarrassment, have things we worry about being too much, saying too much, moving weirdly, all sorts of things. He had no control over it and he learnt to live with it. He learnt to advocate for others, but that was through his friend's mother being the first person really to see him and to accept him and to help him begin to understand himself and come off the horrendous medication and work with life, stop arguing with reality. Like, kind of, they all made mistakes, like everyone's human, but her attitude, so accepting, so loving, it kind of takes me then to the love element of the framework. But she was active. It was very active, her inviting this stranger into her home, telling her husband and her son, who was his friend, that she had invited him to stay. She recognised that things were tough for him at his home. And her argument was she only had 6 months to live. He begins to find acceptance through, for the first time in his life, being accepted, being told to not apologize for anything he can't help. And he's had a lifetime of brutal, brutal punishments for things he can't help, which of course we know would trigger a stress response, which would make it much more likely that these outbursts, that these tics would become more amplified because he's then terrified. He's in a sympathetic survival response, that kind of hiss in terms of the catitude way of explaining polyvagal theory. You can find links to the episodes around that in the show notes. It's so obvious that had the grown-ups, even not understanding about Tourette's, just having a bit more care and compassion for a young boy in pain, how different his life could have been and how he's able to recognize that he might not have done any differently if he'd been in one of the different positions. I'm a little bit all over the place. I've been so excited about sharing this film recommendation because it is so beautiful. But my encouragement for you, whatever you're facing, whatever you're struggling to accept in yourself, research. When I was first diagnosed with endometriosis when I was in my 20s and I had daily pain and I'd had endless hospital appointments and intrusive tests and then triggered flashbacks from childhood and like trauma, blah, blah, blah. It was horrific. But I remember seeing a picture of what happened with endometriosis, like the cells. And I remember actually throwing up. I was utterly repulsed by what was going on in my body. And having surgery, but that not working, like being told I'd have to have surgery every couple of years, having that chronic pain for so long, but being determined that I was going to, like, I started yoga because certain poses helped. I trained as a crystal therapist because they helped, where hospital prescribed painkillers didn't. I'm a huge fan of modern medicine, but I had to learn to help myself. So I really identified with that part of John's journey where he gets a job and his boss tells him that he needs to educate the police, he needs to educate the teachers, he needs to educate the public to help them understand. I wanted to scream, why does he have to do the emotional labor? Why can't people be kinder? Why can't people just be more understanding and nicer? While also accepting I would probably have moved away from him on a crowded train given a chance because I'd have probably been scared. I understand more about it now. I hope now I maybe put in my loop earplugs but smile, or it's just there are so many opportunities all of us have every day where we can show that little bit more compassion to someone and to ourselves. So moving to that love part of the framework, the acceptance, the you are part of the divine, you're part of nature. There's no need to improve anything, there's no need to change anything. But sometimes love and acceptance can be the hardest thing in the world when you've not been raised with love and acceptance, when you've been criticized, he was forced to face the fireplace because he couldn't help spitting when he ate, and the outbursts at dinner. And like, oh, so many things. And self-love, self-acceptance is hard. I'm a little bit embarrassed sharing this, but the last time I had a verruca, I was repulsed, just like with the picture of the endometriosis. With that, I put crystals around a big crystal to just help me send some love, some compassion to the ovaries, to the areas impacted by the endometriosis. I couldn't look at something like the pictures, the microscopic amplified. But I knew that wasn't going to help with the pain. I knew it was just going to make everything worse. I had to learn to accept it and love it in order to transform it, in order to help heal myself. The last time I had a verruca, I did my best every day when applying the treatment to send it love, to say to myself, and this was like not 100 years ago. I've been doing this work for a long, long time, but I was saying to myself, I love myself, warts and all. Ew. And it's holding the part of me that goes, ew, that's gross. And also, yeah, I am way more loving, way less self-loathing towards myself than I used to be. It's a practice. Ask yourself, what would you do in any given situation if you loved yourself more? Like, what would a person who did love themselves do in a situation you might be in? Love is transformative. It is so powerful. This woman, Dottie, his friend's mum, she changed his life and she changed the world by changing his life, by having compassion for a complete stranger. And that brings us to the heal part of the framework. Dottie got him a job. He got the job, but Dottie helped open the doors. Tommy, his boss, was really understanding with the elements he couldn't control. And he was a hard worker. He was reliable. He did amazing things, but so many people wouldn't give him a chance before. So many people just judged and punished and hurt, and it was just horrendous. And just thinking, I would love to live in a world in which everyone was safe, welcome, loved, and able to thrive. Like, all of us are mammals, all of us have a nervous system that is wired to thrive when we're safe, welcome, and loved. And yet we keep hurting each other, we keep perpetuating trauma, we keep hurting ourselves when we've been traumatized. We've learned at some level that it's safer to hurt ourselves to hopefully avoid pain from outside. But we can all do our part to heal that, to move towards post-traumatic growth with ADHD, with AuDHD, with autism, with any kind of neurodivergence, with any kind of difference, to embrace it as much as you can, to love it as much as you can. Speak up when other people are hurting other people. One of the hardest scenes for me, I don't think I'm giving anything away, I don't think it's too big a spoiler, but it was when he was at school and there was a fight in the playground and most of the school was out yelling, fight, fight, fight. I remembered one of the many schools I went to, and every time that would happen there, I would kind of go in the opposite direction, trying to find somewhere quiet and like just feeling despair for the state of humanity, that two people or more were having some sort of physical altercation. And rather than being helped to resolve it, most people were encouraging the violence. And I still find that really hard now. And now I understand more about my brain, more about myself. I can be gentler with myself around it. But where you are able to speak out against any kind of bullying, any kind of othering, and including the bullying parts of yourself, the things that you've grown up criticizing, being really harsh to yourself around, catch yourself and find that bully part of yourself as well as that bullied part of yourself, and just send them as much love as you can. Think of what you could potentially do. Mentally scan your life, the people you know. I'm not suggesting you take someone you barely know in off the street and pretty much adopt them as a young man and help them transform their lives. But think of how we do heal, we co-regulate in order to heal. We're mammals, we need each other and we need to feel safe with each other. How can you make yourself feel safer? How can you help yourself feel safer? And how can you help someone else or a group of other people feel safer? I, again, don't want to be giving spoilers, but I don't think it's a spoiler to say, who am I kidding? It probably is a spoiler. He brings together a group of people with Tourette's at a certain point in the film, and most of them have never met anyone else with Tourette's. They're very isolated. We now, in 2025, through the internet, I know I've learned so much about ADHD online. I've learned so much about AuDHD, autism, trauma recovery. Like, I began that part of my healing journey before the internet was so kind of big, so kind of used. A lot of that was through books, trainings and things like that. But we have the internet, which is a wonderful, wonderful tool when used in a way that you choose and curated carefully and moving towards what is nourishing and supportive. Find people who you can help and who can help you. Build your communities, join your communities. In the Soul to Soul Circle this week, members tomorrow will be getting a special compassionate body scan, which I hope will be nourishing and delicious for you. You can join via selfcarecoaching.net. Next week, it's a gorgeous interview I've done with one of my favourite yoga teachers, Elizabeth Potts, here in Westport. And I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. You can find full transcripts and show notes and links and more at the blog, selfcarecoaching.net, and also at the Feel Better Everyday podcast.com. If this was helpful, please leave a 5-star review. In a world in which so much is endlessly coming up for healing, I really want to reach as many people as possible with these episodes, with my work, to help as many people who are feeling unsafe to feel safer, to feel able to heal from trauma, to befriend their ADHD or AuDHD brains, to help build a world where everyone feels safe, welcome and loved and able to thrive, and to create lives that they don't need to retreat from to feel better every day. So with trauma histories, with ADHD, with AuDHD, it can be challenging where there has been so much punishment, getting things wrong. Growing up, they say 20,000 times more criticised than a neurotypical child. The trauma of living in a world that isn't built to support you. It takes a lot to connect with the parts that aren't what they call superpowers, the more special needs elements, the sensory issues, the inability to function in certain situations, to overreact, to have meltdowns, all these things that are so painful. And those parts of you deserve love, they deserve care, they deserve acceptance. And you designing a life you don't need to retreat from, that is then going to have a ripple effect as you feel better, as you learn to take better care of yourself. It's going to have a ripple effect on the world around you, contributing to a world in which others feel safer, more welcome, loved, able to thrive. And potentially, I'm nearly 50 and I haven't given up on the idea of world peace. Mila Buikas, 1,000 thank yous. This episode, like all of them, was produced by me, your host, Eve Menezes Cunningham. Be really, really gentle with yourself. If you haven't seen the film, and if you're anything like me, if you tend to cry in films, if you do get very engrossed and forget that it's on a screen and not actually happening, although it was his true story. If I see it again in the cinema, I will be taking my ear defenders, I will be taking an eye mask, and I will be protecting myself from specific scenes so I don't have to run out of the cinema and then come back. That being said, it is so gorgeous. I really hope everyone will go and see it. I hope, I think his name is Robert Aramayo. He was in Behind Your Eyes. I hope he gets an Oscar. Maxine Peake was phenomenal as the kind of foster mother type character. Shirley Henderson was awful as the biological mother. And when I say awful, that was her job to be awful. Sending enormous love to you wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Like, just look after yourself. Act as if you are someone who loves yourself, and notice yourself begin to build those muscles and those habits and routines until not, but it all adds up. Thank you for listening or watching the Feel Better Everyday podcast. This episode, like all of them, was produced by me, your host, Eve Menezes Cunningham. You can find full transcripts, links, and more information in the show notes, and also at selfcarecoaching.net, as well as more information about the book, 365 Ways to Feel Better, Self-Care Ideas for Embodied Wellbeing. And if you're interested in those deeper dives, joining the Soul to Soul Circle, as well as lots of other free resources and information about other offerings. If this episode was helpful, please leave a 5-star review. In a world in which so much is coming up for healing and so many people are feeling unsafe, I want to do whatever I can to help as many people as possible heal from trauma, helping create a world in which everyone is safe, welcome, and loved, physiologically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally able to thrive. So your subscribing or liking or sharing feedback and other support helps me help as many people of all genders with trauma histories and ADHD. And your learning to take better care of yourself isn't just good for you, it creates a ripple effect helping others heal too. So keep looking after yourself, do what feels good, let yourself honour your nervous system, let yourself honour your charge, your life force, and Mila Buikas, 1,000 thank yous.